Republican congressional representative from Georgia, Marjorie Taylor Greene, caused an uproar last week when she posted this tweet advocating for a national divorce. What do we at Rasmussen Reports think about the idea? Well, for starters, I think it's highly unlikely to ever happen. But you're not here for what I think, you're here for what U.S. likely voters think. And they're against it, but not by nearly as much as you'd expect, showing some pretty troubling signs of division in our country. Here's the question. Do you agree or disagree with this statement? We need a national divorce. We need to separate by red states and blue states and shrink the federal government. 34% of U.S. likely voters agree, including 14% who strongly agree. Only 57% disagree, but 43% of them strongly disagree. Younger voters are most receptive to the idea, but still half of them disagree and only 39% agree. But the party signal is where all the action's at. Democrats are most against a national divorce, and Republicans are roughly split on it, with a 47% plurality in favor of a national divorce. Independents poll with Democrats on this one, which is somewhat unusual. Do Republicans agree more than others because the idea was surfaced by a Republican? Maybe, but as you'll see in the next question, there is more that might be going on. For Platinum subscribers, check out the crosstabs on this one. Those who strongly approve of Biden are least in favor of a national divorce, less than any other demographic. Recall from Monday's Ohio poll that they were also the only demographic in which a majority would feel safe drinking water from near the toxic train derailment. Who is more to blame for making America politically divided? Democrats or Republicans? Or are both parties about equally to blame for dividing the country? 41% of U.S. likely voters say Democrats and 32% say Republicans, but 25% say both parties. This Democrat advantage here is a really big deal because this poll was weighted 35% Democrat and 33% Republican, or D+2. Voters of every gender, age, and race blame Democrats more, except strangely voters over 65, who are split. More and more, I'm seeing the older age bracket shift left and middle-aged voters shift right. Here are party numbers. Republicans say Democrats are dividing the country more than Republicans by a 4-1 margin, but Democrats say Republicans are dividing the country. But here, the signal is much weaker. In fact, twice as many Democrats say Democrats are dividing the country as Republicans who say Republicans are. Independents are basically split on this, but that's important since they currently give Biden an approval rating in the 30s, and they had a 5 to 10 point Republican edge during our polling all throughout 2022. The crosstabs of this question and Biden approval are really interesting, however. They give you an idea of how partisan each segment of Joe Biden's supporters are. The strong disapprovers are actually more single-minded than his strong approvers. There's almost a 20-point difference in the party margins. Biden's somewhat approvers are still very anti-Republican, but they're also unwilling to say Joe Biden is doing a great job. The numbers for somewhat disapproves, however, those people seem like they're politically disillusioned. Now, President Joe Biden campaigned on a promise to unite Americans. How would you rate the job he's doing in terms of uniting the country? 17% say he's doing an excellent job, and 34% say a combined excellent or good rating. 50% say poor. These numbers are pretty bad, especially considering his approval is at about the middle of his range right now. For comparison, his approval on Ukraine is a 39% combined excellent or good, and on the border, it's most recently a 31%. Here are the party numbers. 60% of Democrats think he's doing a good or excellent job uniting the country, but only 12% of Republicans agree. 77% say he's doing a poor job, which is essentially the same number of Republicans who say he's doing a poor job on the border. Independents have broken away from the Democrats on this one, so they don't think we need a national divorce, but they're giving Biden horrible marks on his ability to uphold his campaign promises to unite America. But let me close on this. American voters heard Biden's promises, and in August of 2020, nonetheless, predicted that if he won, America would become more divided. Here's the question. 46% of U.S. likely voters said his win would make us more divided, and only 35% said less divided. These numbers are extremely meaningful, since at the time, Biden and Trump were running neck and neck in the polls. The independents were, like they are today, split on this question, but Democrats were where the signal came from. 34% of them said that a Biden win would make America more divided, and only 47% said less divided. Now, if that's because they were making a statement about Biden or about Trump supporters, I'll leave that up to you. If you missed our last video on race relations, make sure you check it out. It has some important explanations about the mechanics of polling that you aren't going to want to miss. And with violent crime creeping back into the news cycle, you're also not going to want to miss our upcoming set on the impact of bail reform. Subscribe now and follow us on Twitter, and thanks for watching.